The tiny spacecraft tumbled through Earth's atmosphere, trailing sparks against the night sky. Inside, Minna worked frantically at the controls, her blue-tinged fingers flying across the blinking console. Warning lights flashed red across her 6-inch frame as the ship's systems failed one by one. "Emergency landing protocols engage," she announced to the empty cabin, more from training than necessity. Her research vessel, no larger than a human coffee mug, had suffered catastrophic damage passing through Earth's magnetic field. The ship broke through the cloud cover, revealing a patchwork of lights below. Minna guided what remained of her craft toward a dark area away from the human settlement. Her people had studied Earth from afar for decades, cataloging it as a planet of giant, potentially dangerous beings. Now she faced the prospect of meeting these creatures up close. The landing was rough. The ship skidded across soft earth, plowing through grass that seemed tall as trees from her perspective, before coming to rest in the backyard of a modest house on the outskirts of town. Minna ran a quick systems check, her heart sinking at the results. Life support, failing. Communications, offline. Engine core, damaged beyond repair. The universal translator was functioning but glitching badly. "Just perfect," she muttered, peering through the cracked viewport at the alien landscape around her. Earth's gravity felt slightly stronger than she was used to, and the air composition was close but not quite right for her physiology. Without her ship's life support, she would struggle to breathe normally after a few days. Minna was gathering emergency supplies when a shadow fell across her ship. Something enormous blocked out the moonlight. She froze, antennae quivering in alarm. A human. He crouched down, his face filling her viewport like a curious mountain. Minna scrambled back, knocking over her equipment in panic. On her world, beings of this size existed only in nightmare stories told to scare children. "Hello," the human called, his voice booming even through the ship's hull. "Is anyone in there?" The translator caught his words, rendering them into her language with occasional static. Minna remained perfectly still, hoping he would lose interest and leave. Instead, he gently touched the ship with one massive finger, rocking it slightly. "I know you're not from around here," he said more softly. "I want to help." Minna's training included protocols for first contact, but none of them accounted for being stranded and vulnerable on a primitive world. She watched as the human stood and walked away, his footsteps making the ground tremble. When he returned, he placed several items near her ship: a small dish of water, bits of food, and what appeared to be building materials, toothpicks, scraps of cloth, and a button. Was this some kind of trap, or a genuine offer of assistance? As night deepened, Minna faced a difficult choice. Her ship's life support would fail completely before morning. She could remain hidden and face certain death, or risk exposure to this giant being who might, just might, mean her no harm. With shaking hands, she gathered her emergency pack and research data. She slipped on her exosuit, which would filter Earth's air for a short time, and opened the ship's hatch. The outside world assaulted her senses immediately. The air felt damp and heavy, filled with strange scents. Grass towered above her like a forest, and the house loomed in the distance like a mountain range. Minna took a tentative step forward, then another. A light came on in the house. The human had seen her. Minna darted behind a dandelion stem as the back door opened. The human stepped out carrying a small light. He moved carefully, scanning the ground with each step. "I'm not going to hurt you," he called gently. "My name is Juan. I'm a friend." The translator caught his words with minimal distortion this time. Minna's antenna twitched nervously. Her people's information about Earth was limited and outdated. Their last major study had concluded that humans were primarily predatory, consuming other species without remorse. The images they'd intercepted from Earth broadcasts showed humans hunting, cooking meat, and displaying aggressive behaviors. Yet this human seemed different from those reports. He moved with careful precision, as if aware of his size and strength. Juan settled onto the grass, still some distance away. He placed his light down and waited silently. After several minutes, he spoke again. "I saw your ship fall from the sky. I know you must be scared and far from home. I study biology, specifically the possibility of life beyond Earth. I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone like you." The sincerity in his voice made Minna hesitate. Was it possible the human wouldn't harm her? Her ship was beyond repair, and without help, she would not survive long enough for her people to locate her. Making her decision, Minna stepped out from behind the dandelion. The human's eyes widened, but he remained perfectly still. "My name is Mina," she said, her translator converting her words into human language. "My ship is damaged. I cannot leave." Juan's face transformed with a smile that was both gentle and filled with wonder. "It's incredible to meet you, Mina. Are you hurt? Do you need anything right away?" "My ship's life support is failing," she explained. "Your atmosphere is difficult for me." Juan nodded thoughtfully. "May I look at your ship? Maybe I can help repair it." Mina led him to her damaged craft, every instinct screaming danger as the huge human followed her. One careless move from him could crush her completely. Yet he moved with surprising grace for such a large being. At the ship, Juan lay on his stomach to examine it at eye level. "Amazing technology," he murmured. "The damage looks extensive. What powers your life support system?" Mina explained the basics of her ship's power core. Though primitive by her standards, Juan seemed to grasp the concepts quickly. "I think we can rig something temporary," he said. "I have some small batteries and materials inside that might work. Would you trust me to carry your ship to my workshop? Trust a giant alien predator to pick up her only shelter?" Mina's antenna flattened against her head in an anxiety. "I promise to be careful," Juan added, seeming to understand her fear. "Or you can ride on the ship if you prefer." The worsening readings on her exosuit's atmospheric filter made the decision for her. "I will come with my ship," she said. With extreme care, Juan scooped up the tiny spacecraft, keeping it level as Mina climbed aboard. He carried them slowly into his house, into a room filled with books, tools, and scientific equipment. "Welcome to Earth, Mina," he said, setting the ship gently on his desk. "I know you're afraid I might eat you or something terrible like that, but I promise you're safe here. We're going to figure this out together." As Juan gathered materials to help extend her life support, Mina watched him with growing curiosity. Perhaps, she thought, the old reports about humans were wrong, or perhaps this human was simply different. Either way, her survival now depended on this gentle giant. And for the first time since crashing on this strange world, Mina felt something besides fear, a tiny spark of hope. Mina woke to sunlight streaming through the window of Juan's study. She had spent the night inside her partially repaired ship, which now sat on a shelf near his desk. Juan had worked late into the night, connecting small Earth batteries to her life support systems. The makeshift repairs weren't perfect, but they would keep her alive for now. She peeked out cautiously. The room was empty, but she could hear movement elsewhere in the house. Leaving the safety of her ship made her antenna quiver with anxiety, but curiosity pushed her forward. This was, after all, a research mission, even if an accidental one. Mina activated her exosuit's climbing mode and carefully descended to the floor. From her perspective, Juan's home resembled an endless cavern system, filled with objects she could only guess the purpose of. She followed the sounds, staying close to the walls and ready to hide at any moment. The noises led her to the kitchen. Peering around the doorframe, Mina froze in horror. Juan stood at a counter, a large knife in his hand, slicing through what appeared to be flesh. A red liquid dripped onto the cutting board. Behind him, something sizzled in a pan, releasing steam and strange smells. The reports were right, she whispered to herself, ducking back behind the doorframe. Her people's intelligence had warned that humans were omnivores who consumed other living creatures. Seeing it firsthand made her stomach turn. More disturbing was how Juan had seemed so gentle just hours before. Was his kindness merely a ruse to gain her trust? Would she eventually become just another meal for the giant? Minna retreated, her heart pounding. She needed to understand this creature better before deciding if she could truly trust him. Finding a hidden spot beneath a bookshelf in the living room, she settled in to observe. Juan entered, carrying a plate of the food he had prepared. He sat on the couch and activated a large screen on the wall, what her people had identified as human entertainment devices. On the screen, more humans were engaged in some kind of pursuit, running and shouting. Minna noticed they carried weapons. Are all humans violent predators? She wondered, watching as Juan seemed to enjoy the aggressive display while consuming his meal. When Juan finished eating, he returned to his study. Minna heard him calling her name. Minna, are you here? I brought some things that might help with your ship. She remained hidden, uncertain. Part of her training had been to study potential dangers on other worlds. Everything she had seen reinforced her people's warnings about humans. They were carnivorous. They glorified violence in their entertainment, and they were enormously powerful compared to her species. After Juan left the room, Minna darted toward the kitchen, hoping to find more evidence of human behavior. The countertop was far above her, but a kitchen chair provided access to the table. From there, she could see remnants of Juan's breakfast. The red substance she had seen wasn't blood, but rather a fruit paste Juan had spread on bread. The flesh had been some kind of plant material. Still, in another bowl, she found what appeared to be the remains of some creature's eggs. The thought made her shudder. Just then, a new terror appeared. A large furry creature with sharp teeth and glinting eyes leaped onto the table. Minna recognized it as a cat from her briefings, a predator that humans kept as companions, presumably to hunt smaller creatures. Like her, the cat's eyes fixed on her immediately. It crouched, its tail swishing back and forth in preparation to pounce. Minna bolted, racing across the table as the cat sprang forward. She tumbled off the edge, catching herself on the chair rung below. The cat batted at her with a massive paw, missing by centimeters. Minna dropped to the floor and sprinted beneath the refrigerator, wedging herself into the narrow space. The cat prowled outside her hiding spot, occasionally reaching a paw underneath, trying to fish her out. Minna pulled her knees to her chest, trembling. This confirmed everything. Humans surrounded themselves with predators and consumed other species. How could she have considered trusting Juan? Hours passed. The cat eventually lost interest, but Minna remained hidden, trying to formulate a plan. She needed her ship repaired, but relying on Juan seemed increasingly dangerous. When night fell, Minna finally left her hiding place. She needed to return to her ship and gather supplies before attempting to find another solution. Perhaps she could locate human technology that would allow her to send a distress signal to her people. The house was dark except for a light in the living room. Moving silently, Minna made her way back toward the study. As she passed the living room entrance, she paused. Juan sat on the couch, his head in his hands. He looked sad. I hope she's okay, he murmured to himself. I just wanted to help. This gave Minna pause. If Juan intended to harm her, why would he express concern? She crept closer, staying in the shadows. On the coffee table in front of Juan lay several small objects. Tiny pieces of fabric arranged like bedding, miniature containers of water and food, and what appeared to be scaled-down tools that might be useful for her ship repairs. I've searched everywhere, Juan continued, speaking to himself. I hope that Cat didn't. He couldn't finish the sentence, his face twisting with worry. Minna's antenna twitched in confusion. This didn't align with her understanding of predator behavior. Predators didn't prepare comforts for their prey or worry about their well-being. Her translator beeped suddenly, betraying her position. Juan's head snapped up. Minna, is that you? She considered running but instead stepped forward where he could see her. Yes. Relief washed over his features. You're alive. I've been so worried. Where have you been? Are you hurt? I was hiding, she admitted. I saw you in the morning, cutting things with a knife. I thought. She hesitated. Understanding dawned on Juan's face. You thought I was going to eat you. My people believe humans are dangerous predators who consume other intelligent species. Juan's eyes widened, then he let out a gentle laugh. I was just making breakfast. Tomatoes and bread. Though I guess I did have eggs too. He paused, considering. From your perspective, humans must seem terrifying. The cat tried to catch me, Minna added. Juan's expression turned serious. I'm so sorry about Bomi. She's a hunter by nature, but I'll make sure she can't reach you anymore. He gestured to the items on the table. I made these for you. I thought you might be more comfortable with things your size. Minna approached cautiously, examining the offerings. The bedding was soft, the tools surprisingly well crafted for her small hands. Why help me? She asked. What do you gain? Knowledge, friendship, the chance to learn about life beyond our world. Juan replied simply. I spent my life looking at the stars, wondering if we were alone. Now I know we're not. And that's incredible. Minna considered his words. Perhaps her people's information about humans was incomplete or outdated. This human, at least, seemed to value her for reasons beyond what he could gain physically. I will stay, she decided. But I need to understand your ways better. Many things you do frighten me. Juan nodded. That's fair. I'll explain everything I can, and I promise to keep you safe, including from Bomi. That night, Minna moved her ship to the small habitat Juan had created on his desk. As she settled into the soft bedding, she realized that fear came in many forms. There was the instinctive fear of being prey, yes, but there was also the fear of the unknown, of misunderstanding a situation or a being that was different from herself. Tomorrow, she would learn more about this strange giant who seemed determined to help her. The human remained dangerous by his very nature and size, but perhaps not in the way she had initially believed. Understanding would be her best protection, and possibly her path home. For the next several days, Minna observed Juan from the safety of her new living space on his desk. He had created a small enclosure for her using a wooden box laid on its side. Inside, he had arranged the miniature furniture and tools he'd crafted. He had even installed a tiny door she could close for privacy. Each morning, Juan greeted her with gentle words and fresh supplies. He placed tiny portions of food on a bottle cap that served as her plate. He filled the thimble with clean water. And most importantly, he brought more parts that might help repair her ship. Your universal translator is fascinating, Juan said one morning as he carefully examined her ship through a magnifying glass. The technology is far beyond anything we have on Earth. Minna stood at the edge of her enclosure, still maintaining a safe distance. It converts brain patterns directly, not just words. That's why we can understand each other, even though our mouth structures are different. Juan nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. Amazing. Is it possible to repair it fully? Not without parts from my world, Minna admitted. But we might improve it with your Earth materials. This became their first true project together. Each day, Juan would bring tiny electronic components and tools. Minna would explain what she needed, and Juan would use his larger hands to prepare the materials before passing them to her for the detailed work. The translator still glitched occasionally, but the repairs helped. As communication improved, so did their understanding of each other. May I ask you something personal? Juan said one evening as they worked side by side. Minna's antenna twitched nervously, but she nodded. Are you still afraid I might eat you? The direct question caught her off guard. Minna considered her answer carefully. Not exactly, she said finally, but your size still frightens me. One careless movement could. She didn't finish the sentence. Juan nodded solemnly. I understand. I promise to always move slowly around you. Would it help if I wore these? He held up a pair of soft fabric gloves. They would make my movements more visible and less dangerous. The thoughtfulness of this gesture surprised Minna. Yes, that would help. As the days passed, Minna ventured farther from her enclosure. She began to explore Juan's home more openly, no longer hiding in shadows. Juan had placed Bomi the cat in another room during the day, ensuring Minna's safety as she explored. One morning, Minna perched on the edge of a bookshelf, watching as Juan prepared breakfast. Now that she understood human eating habits better, the process seemed less threatening. She observed with scientific curiosity rather than horror. "Would you like to try some?" Juan asked, noticing her interest. He cut a tiny piece of pancake and drizzled a droplet of maple syrup on it. Minna hesitated. Her people didn't share food. It was considered too intimate, too vulnerable. But she was a researcher at heart, driven by curiosity. Juan nodded slowly. "But you're not frightened anymore, right?" Minna looked up at the human who had saved her life, who had worked beside her day after day, whose giant hands had crafted tiny furniture for her comfort. The human who now wore soft gloves around her to make her feel safer. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not afraid anymore." That night, for the first time, Minna chose to sleep outside her ship. The tiny bed Juan had made for her was soft and comfortable. As she drifted to sleep, she realized that trust, like fear, came in many forms. And sometimes, the greatest distances crossed were not measured in light years, but in understanding. The tiny device they had built together beeped 3 weeks later, startling both Minna and Juan during their breakfast. The sound was faint but unmistakable, a response from Minna's people. They heard us. Minna leaped up from her seat on the edge of a coaster, nearly knocking over her thimble of juice. She raced across the table toward the sound. Juan carefully carried both Minna and the communication device back to his study. His hands, now steady and practiced at handling her tiny form, didn't cause her any anxiety anymore. She had grown used to the gentle way he moved around her. The message was short but clear. Her people had received her distress call and were preparing a rescue mission, but the news wasn't entirely good. 8 years, Minna whispered, her antenna drooping. "They say it will take 8 years for a rescue ship to reach Earth." Juan sat back in his chair, processing this information. 8 years is a long time. "A very long time," Minna agreed, her blue skin taking on a paler hue. "Our lifespans are similar to humans. 8 years is a significant portion of my life." They sat in silence for a moment, both contemplating what this meant. Finally, Juan spoke. "Then we have 8 years to learn from each other," he said, his voice growing more cheerful. 8 years for the most detailed cultural exchange in human history. Minna looked up at him, her antenna perking slightly. "You're not upset about waiting?" "I'm a scientist, Minna. The chance to learn about an alien civilization directly from a member of that society. That's worth waiting for." From that day forward, their relationship transformed. No longer was Minna simply a stranded traveler in need of help. She became a teacher, an ambassador of her world. And Juan, in turn, became her guide to humanity. Each morning, they established a routine. Juan would show Minna something from human culture, music, art, literature, or science. In the afternoons, Minna would teach Juan about her civilization's achievements and values. "This is what we call music," Juan explained one morning, playing a classical piece on his small speaker. He had learned that Minna's hearing range was different from humans, so he carefully selected pieces that would translate well to her senses. Minna listened intently, her entire body seeming to vibrate with the sound waves. "We have nothing like this," she admitted. "Our sound creations are purely for communication, never for—" "What did you call it?" "Emotional expression," Juan supplied. "Yes, the concept is fascinating." On another day, Juan brought out paints and small scraps of paper. He demonstrated how humans created visual art, explaining the concept of beauty for its own sake. Minna attempted to paint with the tiny brush Juan had fashioned for her. Her first efforts were clumsy, but she approached the task with scientific precision, determined to understand this human practice. "In my world, we create patterns, but always with purpose, to convey information or mark territories," she explained. The idea of creating images simply for visual pleasure is new to me. In return, Minna taught Juan about her world's technologies. Using scraps of paper, she drew intricate diagrams of her people's underground cities, their sustainable energy systems, and their advanced methods of communication. Our entire society is built around efficient resource use, she explained. When you live underground with limited space, waste becomes your greatest enemy. Juan took careful notes on everything she shared, occasionally asking questions that revealed his deep understanding of scientific principles. Though Earth technology was primitive compared to her world, the basic concepts translated well. Your species has remarkable potential, Minna told him one day. You understand the right questions to ask. That's the beginning of true advancement. As months passed, their exchange deepened. Juan taught Minna about human relationships, families, friendships, and communities. She was particularly fascinated by the concept of romantic love, something her species expressed very differently. Our connections are primarily intellectual and cooperative, she explained. The emotional bonds humans form seem both inefficient and beautiful. Yes, she decided. I would like to try. Juan placed the morsel on a clean bottle cap and set it beside her. Minna sniffed it cautiously before taking a small bite. The sweetness exploded across her tongue, unlike anything on her world. This is pleasant, she admitted, surprised by how much she enjoyed it. Juan beamed. Food brings people together on Earth. Sharing a meal is how we build friendship. On my world, we build connections through shared knowledge, Minna explained. The more we teach each other, the closer we become. Then we're becoming very close, Juan said with a smile. You've taught me more about the universe in a week than I've learned in years of study. That afternoon, they worked together on Minna's ship again. The life support systems were now stable, but the communication array remained damaged beyond their ability to repair. We need to try reaching your people, Juan said. Do you have any way to send a distress signal? Minna shook her head. Not without the main communication array. The crash damaged it completely. Juan thought for a moment. What if we build a new one? I have some radio equipment we could modify. Our technologies are very different, Minna said doubtfully. But the principles might be similar. Electromagnetic waves are universal, right? The project became their focus. Juan brought components from his workshop, tiny wires, circuits, and power sources. Minna drew diagrams explaining her world's communication technology. Together, they built a hybrid device that combined Earth technology with Minna's knowledge. One evening, as they worked late into the night, Juan asked about her home. What is your world like? Do your people live in cities like ours? Minna paused, feeling a wave of homesickness. Our cities are underground, connected by tunnels. The surface of my planet has strong radiation from our star, so we evolved to live beneath the soil. That explains why you're not afraid of enclosed spaces, Juan noted, and why you seem comfortable in darkness. Yes, our eyes see different wavelengths than yours. What you call darkness is often quite visible to me. Is that why you were watching me sleep last night? Juan asked with a gentle smile. Minna's skin flushed a deeper blue with embarrassment. You knew about that. I woke up briefly. You were sitting on my nightstand. I was studying human sleep patterns, Minna said defensively. For scientific purposes. Juan laughed softly. It's okay. I study biology, remember. I understand scientific curiosity. As they continued working on the communication device, their conversations grew deeper. Minna learned about Juan's childhood dreams of meeting beings from other worlds. Juan learned about Minna's culture, where exploration was considered the highest calling. My family didn't understand why I became an explorer, Minna admitted one night. They wanted me to stay in the central tunnels, working in the knowledge archives. My parents wanted me to become a doctor, Juan said. They thought studying alien biology was a waste of time. And now you've met an actual alien. The ultimate vindication, Juan agreed with a smile. The breakthrough came on the 10th day. Their makeshift communication device suddenly hummed to life, connecting with a distant satellite Mina's people had positioned near Earth's solar system years ago as part of their observation network. "It's working," Mina exclaimed, her antenna glowing with excitement. "We can send a message." Juan watched in amazement as Mina typed commands into the tiny interface they had built. The message was brief: her coordinates, condition, and a request for extraction. When she finished, she looked up at Juan, her expression mixed with joy and something else. "How long until they answer?" Juan asked. "The satellite will relay the message, but it will take time. Days, perhaps weeks for a response. Months or years for a rescue." They sat in silence, both realizing what this meant. Their partnership had succeeded, but success would eventually mean separation. "What will happen when your people come?" Juan asked finally. Mina's antenna drooped slightly. "I don't know. We have protocols for first contact, but not for situations like this. Will they want to meet me? They might be frightened, as I was." Juan nodded slowly. "But you're not frightened anymore, right?" Mina looked up at the human who had saved her life, who had worked beside her day after day, whose giant hands had crafted tiny furniture for her comfort. The human who now wore soft gloves around her to make her feel safer. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not afraid anymore." That night, for the first time, Mina chose to sleep outside her ship. The tiny bed Juan had made for her was soft and comfortable. As she drifted to sleep, she realized that trust, like fear, came in many forms. And sometimes, the greatest distances crossed were not measured in light years, but in understanding. The tiny device they had built together beeped 3 weeks later, startling both Mina and Juan during their breakfast. The sound was faint but unmistakable, a response from Mina's people. "They heard us." Mina leaped up from her seat on the edge of a coaster, nearly knocking over her thimble of juice. She raced across the table toward the sound. Juan carefully carried both Mina and the communication device back to his study. His hands, now steady and practiced at handling her tiny form, didn't cause her any anxiety anymore. She had grown used to the gentle way he moved around her. The message was short but clear. Her people had received her distress call and were preparing a rescue mission, but the news wasn't entirely good. 8 years, Mina whispered, her antenna drooping. "They say it will take 8 years for a rescue ship to reach Earth." Juan sat back in his chair, processing this information. 8 years is a long time. "A very long time," Mina agreed, her blue skin taking on a paler hue. "Our lifespans are similar to humans. 8 years is a significant portion of my life." They sat in silence for a moment, both contemplating what this meant. Finally, Juan spoke. "Then we have 8 years to learn from each other," he said, his voice growing more cheerful. 8 years for the most detailed cultural exchange in human history. Mina looked up at him, her antenna perking slightly. "You're not upset about waiting?" "I'm a scientist, Mina. The chance to learn about an alien civilization directly from a member of that society. That's worth waiting for." From that day forward, their relationship transformed. No longer was Mina simply a stranded traveler in need of help. She became a teacher, an ambassador of her world. And Juan, in turn, became her guide to humanity. Each morning, they established a routine. Juan would show Mina something from human culture, music, art, literature, or science. In the afternoons, Mina would teach Juan about her civilization's achievements and values. "This is what we call music," Juan explained one morning, playing a classical piece on his small speaker. He had learned that Mina's hearing range was different from humans, so he carefully selected pieces that would translate well to her senses. Mina listened intently, her entire body seeming to vibrate with the sound waves. "We have nothing like this," she admitted. "Our sound creations are purely for communication, never for—" "What did you call it?" "Emotional expression," Juan supplied. "Yes, the concept is fascinating. On another day, Juan brought out paints and small scraps of paper. He demonstrated how humans created visual art, explaining the concept of beauty for its own sake. Minna attempted to paint with the tiny brush Juan had fashioned for her. Her first efforts were clumsy, but she approached the task with scientific precision, determined to understand this human practice. In my world, we create patterns, but always with purpose, to convey information or mark territories, she explained. The idea of creating images simply for visual pleasure is new to me. In return, Minna taught Juan about her world's technologies. Using scraps of paper, she drew intricate diagrams of her people's underground cities, their sustainable energy systems, and their advanced methods of communication. Our entire society is built around efficient resource use, she explained. When you live underground with limited space, waste becomes your greatest enemy. Juan took careful notes on everything she shared, occasionally asking questions that revealed his deep understanding of scientific principles. Though Earth technology was primitive compared to her world, the basic concepts translated well. Your species has remarkable potential, Minna told him one day. You understand the right questions to ask. That's the beginning of true advancement. As months passed, their exchange deepened. Juan taught Minna about human relationships, families, friendships, and communities. She was particularly fascinated by the concept of romantic love, something her species expressed very differently. Our connections are primarily intellectual and cooperative, she explained. The emotional bonds humans form seem both inefficient and beautiful. Juan laughed. That's a perfect description of love, actually. Inefficient but beautiful. Minna began keeping a detailed journal of her observations about human life. With Juan's help, she crafted a tiny book with pages she could turn. Each day, she recorded new insights about Earth culture, human biology, and the strange practices of the giant beings she had once feared would eat her. Juan's research also flourished. With Minna's guidance, he made breakthroughs in his understanding of xenobiology, the study of potentially alien life forms. He wrote papers that contained theoretical insights far beyond current human understanding. My colleagues are starting to ask questions, Juan admitted one evening. My last paper about potential alien respiratory systems was too accurate. Professor Kim called it suspiciously detailed. Minna looked up from the tiny electronic device she was building. Are you in trouble? Not trouble, exactly. But they want me to present my research methods at the university next month. You can't tell them about me, Minna said, her voice tinged with worry. My people's protocols forbid wide exposure to primitive. She stopped herself. I mean to developing civilizations. Juan nodded. I know, but I need to explain my research somehow. They spent days debating various approaches. Finally, Minna suggested a compromise. Tell them you've developed a new theoretical framework. Share some of what I've taught you, but present it as mathematical models rather than confirmed facts. The plan worked, though it raised Juan's profile in the scientific community. His presentation was met with skepticism, but also admiration for his innovative thinking. Soon, other researchers sought his input on their own work. I feel dishonest, Juan confessed to Minna after returning from another lecture. Taking credit for knowledge you've shared with me. Minna's antenna twitched thoughtfully. You're not taking credit for our technology, just for understanding concepts that could lead to similar developments. Besides, you've helped me survive. Consider it fair exchange. As their first year together approached its end, they celebrated by creating something new together. A detailed catalog of compatible and incompatible biological systems between their species. This project allowed them to imagine a future where their peoples might interact more openly. If our civilizations ever meet officially, Minna said as they worked, this information could prevent misunderstandings like mine when I first arrived. You mean your fear that I would eat you? Juan teased gently. Exactly. Imagine official first contact beginning with that assumption. They both laughed, the memory now a shared joke rather than a source of tension. That evening, as Mina sat on Juan's shoulder watching the sunset through the window, something impossible on her world with its dangerous surface. She reflected on how completely her understanding of humans had changed. "When I crashed here, I thought I had landed in a world of monsters," she said quietly. "Now I realize I found the one place in the universe where I was meant to be." Juan carefully reached up to touch her tiny shoulder with his fingertip, a gesture that had become their version of a human handshake. "7 more years of learning together," he said. "I can't wait to see what we discover next." As night fell, Mina couldn't help wondering what her people would think when they finally arrived. Would they understand the friendship she had formed with this gentle giant? Or would they see only what she had first seen, a dangerous alien predator? The future remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. Through their cultural exchange, both Mina and Juan had been transformed, and neither world would ever be quite the same again. The knock on Juan's front door came on a quiet Sunday afternoon, 3 years after Mina's crash landing. They were working together in the study, Mina helping adjust a tiny component in their latest project, an improved communication device, when the sound echoed through the house. "Are you expecting someone?" Mina asked, looking up from her work. Juan shook his head. "No." He gently scooped up Mina and placed her on his shoulder, their usual arrangement when unexpected visitors arrived. "Let's see who it is." When Juan opened the door, he found himself facing 2 serious-looking men in dark suits. One held up an identification card. "Dr. Juan Kim. I'm Agent Lee from the National Science Division. This is my colleague, Agent Park. We'd like to speak with you about your recent publications." Mina pressed herself against Juan's neck, hiding behind his collar. They had discussed this possibility, but hoped it wouldn't happen for years, not until closer to her rescue ship's arrival. Juan maintained his composure. "Of course. Please come in." In the living room, the agents didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Dr. Kim, your papers on theoretical xenobiology contain insights that our own scientists find implausible for someone to develop independently," Agent Lee said. "Especially your most recent work on alien respiratory systems compatible with Earth's atmosphere." "I've developed new mathematical models," Juan replied, using the explanation they had prepared. Agent Park leaned forward. "Your department head, Professor Choi, tells us you've become increasingly secretive about your research methods. You no longer use the university laboratories. My work requires specific conditions." "What we believe," Agent Lee interrupted, "is that you've come into possession of non-terrestrial technology or information. That would be a matter of national security." Mina trembled against Juan's neck. Their fears were becoming reality. If these men searched the house, they would find her ship and the communication device. "I assure you, my research is based on theoretical frameworks I've developed," Juan insisted, but he could see the agents weren't convinced. "We have authorization to search these premises," Agent Park said, producing a document. "I suggest you cooperate fully." Mina whispered in Juan's ear, so quietly that only he could hear. "We have to tell them. If they find everything without explanation, it will be worse." Juan gave a slight nod, feeling the weight of this momentous decision. For 3 years, they had kept Mina's existence secret, fearing how humans might react to proof of alien life. But now, that choice was being taken from them. "Before you search," Juan said carefully, "there's something I need to show you, but I need your word that what I'm about to reveal will be treated with respect and care." The agents exchanged glances. "We can't make promises without knowing what we're dealing with," Agent Lee said. "Then I'll have to trust your integrity," Juan replied. He reached up slowly to his collar. "Mina, it's time." Mina took a deep breath and stepped forward onto Juan's hand. He lowered her gently to the coffee table between them and the agents. Both men froze, their expressions shifting from skepticism to shock as they stared at the 6-inch, tall blue-skinned being standing before them. "Hello," Mina said, her translator converting her words to clear Korean. "My name is Mina. I am a scientific explorer from the planet you would call Kepler 186f. I crashed on your world 3 years ago, and Juan has been helping me survive." The silence that followed was profound. Agent Park's mouth hung slightly open. Agent Lee blinked repeatedly, as if trying to clear his vision. "This is," Agent Lee finally managed. "First contact," Juan finished for him, though not quite as official as any of us might have preferred. What followed was an intense 3-hour conversation. The agents called their superiors. More officials arrived. By evening, Juan's living room held 6 government representatives and 2 scientists who had been hurriedly summoned. Through it all, Minna remained composed, answering questions about her world, her technology, and her species. She explained how her ship had crashed, how Juan had helped her, and how her people were sending a rescue mission that would arrive in 5 more years. "We have been conducting our own cultural exchange," she told the assembled humans, "learning about each other's worlds in preparation for potential future relations between our species." Dr. Seo, one of the scientists, leaned forward with naked fascination. "And have you been sharing advanced technology with Dr. Kim?" "I have shared knowledge," Minna clarified. "Basic scientific principles that help explain how my technology works. But Juan has not received any functional advanced devices." The officials conferred in whispers. Juan and Minna exchanged worried glances. This moment would determine their fate, and possibly the fate of future human-alien relations. Finally, Agent Lee addressed them. "This situation is unprecedented. We need to establish protocols for how to proceed." He looked directly at Minna. "We would like to propose an official, structured exchange program, with Dr. Kim continuing as your primary human contact, but with additional scientific and diplomatic personnel involved." Minna's antenna twitched nervously. "I understand your government's interest, but I must consider my people's protocols as well. We typically avoid direct intervention in developing civilizations." "With respect," Dr. Seo said gently, "that ship has sailed, quite literally, when yours crashed here. The question now is how we manage this reality." The negotiations continued into the night. By morning, a tentative agreement was reached. Minna would remain with Juan, but they would work with a small team of scientists and diplomats to prepare Earth for eventual official contact with her civilization. Their home would become a secure facility, protected from media and public knowledge, until both sides agreed the time was right for wider disclosure. 1 week later, Minna sat on the windowsill of their study, now equipped with advanced research equipment provided by the government. Juan joined her, careful as always with his movements around her tiny form. "Are you having regrets?" he asked quietly. Minna watched as workers installed additional security features around the property perimeter. "I'm adapting," she said, "just as I've been doing since I arrived. I worry they'll try to take advantage of your knowledge." Juan admitted. "They will try," Minna agreed. "But I've spent 3 years studying humans. I understand your species better now, both your capacity for fear and your potential for growth." She looked up at her friend. "Besides, we're a team. We'll navigate this together." The following months brought new challenges and opportunities. The small team of humans cleared to know about Minna approached their work with varying attitudes. Some, like Dr. Seo, came with pure scientific curiosity. Others clearly sought technological advantages or political leverage. Minna handled them all with diplomatic skill, sharing knowledge about cultural and biological matters while being carefully selective about technological information. As she had told Juan once, some gifts can be harmful if given before their time. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. 6 months after the government's involvement began, their improved communication device detected a new signal, stronger and more direct than anything before. "It's from an advanced scout ship," Minna explained as she decoded the message. Her antenna glowed with excitement. "They've accelerated their mission. They'll arrive in 8 months, not 5 years." The news transformed their work. Now Earth needed to prepare for actual alien visitors, not just theoretical ones. The government officials were both excited and alarmed. Emergency meetings were called. Contingency plans were drafted. Through it all, Juan remained Mina's steadfast companion and protector, ensuring her voice was heard in the growing chorus of human opinions and agendas. The night before the advanced scout ship was due to arrive, Juan and Mina sat alone on the roof of their house, looking up at the stars. The property was now surrounded by security, scientific equipment, and diplomatic personnel preparing for tomorrow's historic event. "When I first saw you," Mina said softly, "I was certain you would eat me." Juan laughed. "And now?" "Now I know there are many ways to be consumed," she replied thoughtfully. "By fear, by mistrust, by greed for knowledge or power." She looked up at him. "But also by friendship, by understanding, by the kind of connection that bridges worlds." As they watched, a faint light appeared in the sky, moving too directly to be a shooting star. The advanced ship was making its approach. "Are you ready?" Juan asked. Mina stood tall on the roof beside him, no longer the frightened crash survivor, but a confident ambassador between worlds. "Yes," she said. "Thanks to you, I'm not afraid anymore." As the light grew brighter, Mina reflected on how completely wrong her people's understanding of humans had been. Yes, they were large and sometimes frightening. Yes, they consumed other species and occasionally acted in predatory ways. But they were also capable of gentleness, curiosity, and profound connection. Sometimes, she realized, the most important understanding comes not from grand diplomatic gestures or scientific exchanges, but from simple moments of trust, like when a tiny alien stopped hiding from the human she feared would devour her. And that human proved to be something else entirely.